Hello my fellow Christian fiction lovers, welcome to another video. I am so excited to be filming this video because today I am going to be reviewing All Through the Night by Tara Johnson. I came upon this book a while ago, I don't know when it was published, I think 2019. Oh, it was only published in 2020. Well, that was like 3 years ago. Anyway, I've heard a lot about this book and I saw it in a sale that Tyndale did quite a few months ago and it was only $5. So I snatched it up. I was like, that's not a lot of money if I end up really disliking it. I'm so glad I did. This book was amazing. I am really looking forward to telling you guys why this book is so amazing and why I think you should read it as well. So the main premise of the book is we follow two main characters, primarily Cadence Piper. She has just moved to Washington, D.C. This is set during the Civil War, and she is a young woman. I believe she's 18, 19. She lives with her father. Her mother has passed away, and her brother has basically run away and kind of disgraced the family name. And she wants to work in her father's shop, but he does not allow her to. So then she wants to take up nursing to support the war effort and care for the wounded. And the lady who organizes the nurses basically tells her that she is too young and too pretty and unmarried, so therefore she cannot work as a nurse. And she just wants to basically serve her country and do something, and she feels like she has no purpose. And then some events play out to where she is kind of given a purpose to use her voice to sing at union benefits and parties and just kind of raise morale among those who are beaten down by the war. And then the other character we follow is Dr. Joshua Ivy, who is kind of the main doctor at the Washington DC hospital, something like that. And basically the first time that he hears Cadence sing, he thinks she is this stuck-up young woman who just has these idealistic, romantic views of war. She comes to him and is like, I really want to nurse or do something in the hospital, and he's like, no, get out or I will throw you out, basically. And then it gets to a point where the hospital is so desperate for nurses that he goes to her and basically begs her to come work for him in the hospital, and she gets to work alongside him and their relationship grows that way. They are each other's love interests. Their relationship is so sweet, and I really enjoyed reading how both of them uncover, I guess not necessarily secrets, that makes it sound bad, but just uncover some hidden things about the other person that even the reader isn't necessarily privy to right away. And one thing about Cadence that I think really added to her character, this is kind of moving from the plot into the character development, but Cadence, we learn very early on, she has a speech impediment, and certain words and sounds are very hard for her to say. The hard C or K sound causes her to stutter quite a lot. So she tries to avoid those words, and that does play into some of the scenes where she's speaking to others. There's this one scene with Dr. Ivy that it's really sweet. I just love this book so much. So the plot does develop very nicely. A lot happens in this book. There was a point where I was thinking oh my goodness, so much has happened and so much more still has to happen to resolve the plot. And so I really liked it. It was very steady. I'd say it's more of a plot-driven book than a character-driven book. That is a whole concept that I have really tried to figure out, of how do you determine if something is plot-driven versus character-driven, because the decisions of characters are always going to drive the plot. That's not necessarily true. I'm probably making it sound like a bigger deal than it is, but it took me a while to figure out the difference, and if you'd like me to make a video on it, let me know and I'd be happy to explain it, because there is a definite difference, and this book is, I would say, very plot-driven, just because it really revolves around the war and the battles and what's happening in Washington, D.C. and all of those types of things. And then I did talk about Cadence's character a little bit. The character development in this book is so powerful. I truly felt like I grew with these characters, and both of them grew so much in personally within themselves, in their relationship with God, and in their relationship with each other. And like those three things, that like trinity, so to speak, of the development just tied this book together so perfectly, and I loved every second of it. Truly, I did. Cadence, she develops so much in her identity and her purpose and like what she lives for every day, basically. It completely changes by the end of the book, and she changes where she seeks her validation and approval from. And that's something personally that like I have struggled with my entire life. I feel like a lot of people struggle with it too, of just seeking that validation and approval from sources that, like, when it comes to eternity, they don't matter, and they're very fleeting and temporary. And that is uncovered and like unpacked a lot within the character of Cadence, and that just really spoke to my own heart, and I related to her with that. Like, she doesn't have to prove herself. That was a very big theme in this book. And Dr. Ivy helps her with that. His character development is also amazing. He just really, like, he a little bit had some development when it came to not having to prove himself. His character development really focused a lot on like what his priority was, and that came more towards the end of the book, and I don't want to spoil it, but he just had to sort out like what was most important to him, and he couldn't do everything at once, basically, is what he had to develop into and realize for himself. I just felt like these characters were so thoroughly described, and I could really see their hearts and feel their motives throughout this story, and I really think Tara Johnson just did an immaculate job of describing these characters. They feel so real to me. I feel like they were real people. So that's the character development, 10 out of 10. And then the Christian worldview in this book is so spot on and so biblically accurate. Like, these characters were very strong Christians, and they just grew in their relationship with the Lord, like each one individually as well as with each other. They encouraged each other in the Lord. They encouraged, there's like some kids in the book, to like look to God for answers. Like, it was so beautiful, and I loved it so much. Like, it just felt perfect. It didn't feel forced. Like, it wasn't overdone. It wasn't underdone. It was just, it wasn't even an inclusion. It had to be there. Like, this book would not be this book without God, and like that inclusion, not even inclusion, that's the wrong word, just that presence, I guess. So I did think it was phenomenally written and done. I rated this book 4 out of 5 stars, only because once we got to halfway, 3/4 of the way through, I started to feel like it was not realistic. Like, the events that took place would not have actually taken place. There was one time where Cadence was in a lot of danger, and the outcome would not have been what actually happened in the book. And so I'm not going to spoil it, but just there was one thing that I was like, there's no way like that would have turned out the way it did. So that kind of unrealistic ending just kind of got to me, and that's kind of what took down a star. I'd say this is probably a 4.5 star book, but Goodreads doesn't allow for half stars, unfortunately. So those are my thoughts on this book. I would love to know your thoughts if you've read it, if you want to read it. If you don't want to read it now, then I have not done my job, and I will try and convince you further. But yeah, let me know. Let's chat in the comments, please. But thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, don't forget to give it a like. And if you want to see more videos like this, go ahead and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Until then, bye!